I talk to the ones who feel like they're running on empty because they've been pouring into everybody else, you're showing up for them, answering every call, fixing every crisis. But when it's your heart breaking, your peace unraveling, your soul craving rest, who's showing up for you? See, somewhere along the line, you learned that your worth is tied to your availability, that being needed meant being valuable, but I came to break that lie tonight. Because being accessible to everyone will cost you the version of yourself God is trying to grow. And I don't know about you, but I refuse to miss my healing, my growth, and my purpose just because I didn't know how to say no. It's time to reclaim your time, reclaim your peace, reclaim your boundaries. Somebody say, I'm not available like I used to be. There is something powerful about being present, about showing up. We're taught early on that being available emotionally, mentally, physically is how you prove love, loyalty, and strength. That availability equals value, that when people need you, it means you matter, and so you start living like a light switch that anyone can flip on. Someone calls, you answer. Someone cries, you show up. Someone demands, you drop everything. Before long, you become a constant source. But what nobody told you is that being constantly available can become a silent drain. It looks noble on the outside, but inside it's costing you more than anyone sees. But you begin to feel tired, but it's not just physical. It's so deep, you feel guilty for needing rest. You feel anxious about taking time for yourself. You second guess the impulse to turn your phone off or ignore that text. Because the pattern is so deeply ingrained, be there always. And even though part of you is drowning, you still keep throwing out life vests to everyone else. You want to make an impact and want to be light in dark places. But what happens when the light you give away leaves you sitting in the dark? Availability without wisdom and discernment is dangerous. It teaches people that access to you is a right, not a privilege, that they can come to you broken, chaotic, unprepared, and still expect you to be whole enough to carry them. You become the fixer, the healer, the dependable one. But who are you when you're off stage? Who are you when you're not performing? Because that's what it becomes, a performance, a cycle, a loop you didn't mean to get stuck in. You start noticing the warning signs, the resentment that creeps in after you say yes again, knowing you didn't have the energy, the loss of identity because your time is consumed by other people's needs. The moments where you realize you've shown up for everyone but yourself, and maybe for a while you try to push past it. You tell yourself it's just a phase, that you'll rest later, that you'll take care of yourself after one more call, one more visit, one more emergency. Later keeps moving further away. We were never meant to be everything to everyone. We were never designed to be on call for chaos. But if we're not careful, our hearts will become warehouses for other people's baggage. You think you're helping by always saying yes, but what you're actually doing is teaching people not to grow. Because your availability becomes their crutch. Your presence becomes their escape, and your silence becomes the approval they use to keep avoiding their own healing. Discernment is not about being cold or distant, it's about wisdom. It's about asking yourself, is this mine to carry? Not every cry is your assignment. Not every crisis needs your intervention. And not every opportunity to show up is divine. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is rest. Sometimes the most powerful word you can say is no. Not because you don't care, but because you've learned that your care must have structure or it will consume you. Burnout doesn't always show up in flames. Sometimes it shows up in the slow erosion of your joy, in the moments where peace feels foreign, in the way your body feels heavy every morning, in how you can't remember the last time you felt light, free, or genuinely happy. But you're still available, still answering, still showing up with an empty tank. That's not impact. That's self-sacrifice turned into self-neglect. Some people won't notice your exhaustion because your strength has been too convincing. You've worn your cape so long that they assume you're invincible, but you know the truth. You know what it costs you to be this dependable. You know the nights you cry alone, the frustration that builds when your boundaries are crossed, the way your spirit feels stretched and thin, and you wonder if anyone really sees you or if they only see what you can get. That's why discernment is crucial. You need the Spirit to help you see what's for you and what's not, to reveal where you're planting seeds that will never grow, to open your eyes to the difference between divine connections and draining attachments. Every open door isn't a God door. Every person calling you doesn't mean you are the one called to answer. You must start filtering access through purpose, not pressure. Being effective is not about being available 24/7. It's about being intentional, about knowing when your presence will produce fruit and when it will just enable dysfunction. There's a weight that comes with trying to be God for people, trying to be their answer, their fix, their rescue. But that was never your assignment. Your job is to be obedient, not omnipresent. Sometimes God will let you get tired, not to punish you, but to teach you, to show you that impact has boundaries, that even Jesus withdrew. Even he went away to rest, to pray, to replenish. And if the Son of God needed time alone, why do you think you can function without it? You can't. You weren't built that way. You were built to pour from overflow, not depletion. When you start practicing discernment, you will lose people. People who are addicted to your yes. People who like the version of you that ignored your needs. People who benefited from your silence, your lack of boundaries, your always on availability. But what you'll gain in return is your peace, your clarity, your strength. You'll start showing up whole, not resentful, not exhausted, not half present. And that version of you, that version is powerful. That version can actually make an impact. Because the truth is, you can't be impactful if you're constantly unavailable to yourself. You can't lead if you're lost in your own life. You can't pour if your well is dry. And you can't heal others while ignoring the places in you that still bleed. So you have to pause. You have to reflect. You have to ask God, who have I made myself available to that you didn't send me to? Where am I wasting my strength on what you never asked me to carry? And when he answers, you must listen. There's something sacred about your yes. It may not seem like much, just a word, a nod, a decision to show up or participate. But the truth is, every time you say yes, you are making a transaction. You are offering your time, your energy, your emotional bandwidth, your gifts. You are stepping into agreement, into covenant, into responsibility. And when your yes becomes casual, automatic, or unguarded, you start giving your power to places and people that were never meant to carry it. We live in a world that pressures us to be agreeable, to be the one who says yes quickly without hesitation. We're taught that saying yes makes you cooperative, generous, kind. And while there is a beauty in being open and willing, there is also a danger in being agreeable to everything. Because eventually, your calendar becomes full, but your spirit becomes empty. Your life becomes busy, but your purpose becomes blurry. To look up and realize you've built a routine around obligations instead of intention. Your yes opens doors, but not all doors lead to destiny. Some doors lead to distraction. Some opportunities look good on the surface but are void of alignment, and when you say yes to them, you unintentionally say no to the things that actually matter. Every yes has a cost, and too many people are paying with their peace, their focus, their health, their calling, all because they never learned to guard their agreement. When you don't value your yes, other people won't either. They'll treat it like a free pass, something they can access at any time. They'll come with their agendas, their timelines, their emergencies, and expect you to accommodate it all. Not because they're malicious, but because you haven't taught them the value of your yes. And part of that teaching comes from knowing it yourself, knowing that your yes carries weight, knowing that it's not something you owe, it's something you choose. When you say yes to something that isn't aligned with your purpose, it becomes a seed planted in the wrong soil. You pour into it, nurture it, invest in it, hoping for fruit, but what comes up is frustration because there's no grace on it, no divine backing, just your own effort trying to force something that was never yours to begin with. Misaligned yeses lead to misdirected energy, and eventually, misdirection leads to disappointment because you start wondering why things aren't working, why you're drained, why you don't feel fulfilled. Saying yes should feel like peace, even when it comes with responsibility. Peace is the fruit of alignment. Peace is what tells you this is your lane, this is your season, this is your assignment. But when your yes is followed by anxiety, dread, or regret, that's a signal. A divine clue. Your spirit is trying to tell you that you've agreed to something that is pulling you out of rhythm with your purpose. Discernment is key when it comes to your yes. You can't afford to be impulsive. Not with your energy, not with your time, not with your gifts. You have to pause and ask yourself, does this align with what I'm called to do? Does this pull me closer to who I'm becoming, or does it drain me trying to be someone I'm not? Not every invitation is a divine opportunity. Some things come to test you, not to bless you. And sometimes the enemy doesn't send storms, he sends distractions dressed as good things. People will test your boundaries. They will push, manipulate, and sometimes even guilt you into saying yes. But your job is not to be everything to everyone. Your job is to be obedient to what's been placed in your hands. That means you can't give your yes just to avoid disappointing people. You can't give your yes out of fear of rejection. You can't give your yes just because you want to be liked. People pleasing is one of the fastest ways to lose your identity. You trade authenticity for approval, and that's a dangerous exchange. Saying no isn't about being mean, it's about being intentional. Every no is a yes to something else, a yes to your boundaries, a yes to your peace, a yes to the vision that's trying to be birthed in you. You don't owe everyone an explanation. You don't have to defend your no. Silence is a full sentence when you know who you are. The more you grow, the more you'll realize that clarity requires courage. It takes courage to disappoint others so you don't disappoint yourself. It takes courage to honor your priorities even when it inconveniences someone else's plans. There's a difference between being used by God and being used by people. One fills you up, the other empties you out. When God uses you, it comes with supernatural strength, with grace, with evidence. When people use you, it often leaves you bitter, tired, and questioning your worth. And if you're not careful, you'll confuse servanthood with slavery. You'll call it love when it's really obligation. You'll call it commitment when it's really compromise. And that's why you have to remember your yes is not free, it's an investment. So you better start checking where you're placing it. Your yes has the power to shape your life. Every yes is a building block, a direction, a signal to your future. And when you start being selective, when you start aligning your yes with your calling instead of your comfort, things start to shift. The right connections show up, the right doors open, the weight of performance lifts. You start showing up as your full self, not the watered down version that was stretched thin trying to please everyone. People might not understand it. They'll call you selfish. They'll say you've changed, and that's okay. Growth always confuses the ones who benefited from your lack of boundaries. But you're not responsible for their comfort. You're responsible for your obedience. You're responsible for stewarding what's been placed inside you. And if you keep saying yes to things that don't align, you'll miss the assignments that do. This is the season to reclaim your yes, to pull it back from people who've misused it, to redirect it toward what actually feeds your soul, to speak it with clarity, not guilt. Because when your yes is aligned, it becomes powerful. It becomes holy. It becomes a declaration that you are no longer living by default, but by design. Somewhere along the line, we started believing that love meant access, that care meant constant availability, that if you really valued people, you would never turn them away, never draw a line, never say no. And so we opened the doors of our lives wide, letting anyone and anything walk through, thinking that was grace, thinking that was compassion, thinking that was Christ-like. But even Jesus had boundaries. Even he slipped away from the crowds. Even he said, no, not now, not here, not this. But because we confuse boundaries with rejection, we sabotage our own protection in the name of being kind. Boundaries are not walls to keep love out. They are gates to keep wisdom in. They are the lines that remind us where we end and someone else begins. They are the structure that keeps the weight of our lives from collapsing under pressure. Boundaries don't mean you don't care. They mean you care enough to be clear. They mean you care enough to stay whole. They mean you're not willing to lose yourself just to keep others comfortable. There are people who will only love you if they can control you. People who will call your boundaries disrespectful because they were never taught to respect limitations. People who confuse your silence with an invitation and your kindness with consent. And if you don't know how to draw the line, they will cross it every time, not out of malice necessarily, but out of habit. Because you've never made the line visible. You've never taught them that your time is valuable, your peace is sacred, your space is not for public consumption. You don't have to announce your boundaries with aggression. You just have to live them with consistency. Boundaries aren't always about confrontation. Sometimes they're about repositioning, about choosing where you invest your energy, about deciding what conversations you'll engage in and which ones you'll walk away from, about knowing that being accessible to everyone makes you accountable for too much, and not everything that comes to your door is your assignment. People will say you're distant. They'll say you're selfish. They'll say you've changed. And the truth is, they're right. You have. Because growth demands distance from dysfunction. Because maturity requires moments of detachment. Because healing requires separation from the things that kept wounding you. You can't heal in the same environment that made you sick. And you can't expect peace if you keep inviting chaos into your space. Boundaries are how you regulate what stays and what goes. Too often we create internal chaos trying to keep external peace. We say yes when we want to say no. We agree to conversations that drain us. We let people vent, dump, unload without ever asking how we're doing. We stay in environments that hurt us just so we won't have to deal with the discomfort of leaving. But boundaries are not about comfort. They're about clarity. Clarity about who you are. Clarity about what you need. Clarity about what's worth your time and what's just a distraction. Your heart is too valuable to be left unguarded. Your mind is too precious to be exposed to everything. Your spirit is too sensitive to be entangled with every opinion, every emotion, every crisis. Boundaries give you the permission to preserve your peace without apology. You don't owe anyone an explanation for protecting your energy. You don't need a reason to rest. You don't need to justify choosing stillness over stimulate. The moment you start honoring your limits, you'll start experiencing freedom. Boundaries don't destroy relationships, they reveal them. They show you who is capable of loving you with respect. They expose who has been using you under the mask of friendship. They make clear who honors your no and who manipulates it. And while that revelation might hurt, it will also heal. Because nothing wounds more than relationships where you are overextended and undervalued. Nothing drains more than giving access to people who only take but never pour back. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow. If you keep bending to every demand, you'll find yourself broken. If you keep minimizing your needs to prioritize others, you'll start to disappear. Boundaries are how you come back to yourself, how you reclaim your voice, how you remind your soul that it matters too. Because your purpose cannot flourish in the soil of constant sacrifice. Your calling needs room to grow, and boundaries are how you protect that room. There will be moments where you'll have to disappoint others to be true to yourself. Moments where your no feels heavy. Moments where you're misunderstood. But just because someone doesn't agree with your boundary doesn't mean it's wrong. Their discomfort is not your assignment. Their disapproval is not your signal to change course. Boundaries are a form of self-respect, and the people who love you well will learn to respect them too. You are not a bad person for needing space. You are not weak for requiring rest. You are not arrogant for wanting clarity. You are simply human, and humans need structure. You cannot continue to give your best if you're constantly being depleted. You cannot keep pouring from a place that's running on fumes. Boundaries refill what life tries to empty. They give you the margin to breathe, to reflect, to recover. And in that recovery, you find your strength again. You don't have to wait until you're falling apart to make changes. You don't have to hit rock bottom to draw a line. You don't have to keep losing sleep, joy, or yourself to please others. You can decide today that your peace is worth protecting, that your future is worth guarding, that your healing is worth prioritizing. And once you decide that, boundaries no longer feel like punishment, they feel like love. Self-love, divine love, grounded, unapologetic love. Growth doesn't just require time, effort, or vision. It requires space. Space to stretch, space to heal, space to focus, space to listen deeply to what your soul has been trying to say under all the noise. And the truth is, many of us are so busy trying to be everything for everyone that we've run out of room for ourselves. We've crowded our minds with obligations, filled our calendars with demands, and let our priorities be hijacked by people who don't even know where they're going. And we call that love, we call that support, we call that loyalty, but what we're really doing is delaying our growth for someone else's comfort. There's something deeply powerful about a well-placed no, not a defensive no, not a bitter no, but a clear, rooted, convicted no. A no that comes from a place of clarity. A no that says, I love you, but I love me enough to choose differently. A no that breaks cycles. A no that sets boundaries. A no that frees you from the emotional contracts you never meant to sign. Because every time you say yes out of guilt, obligation, or fear, you hand over a piece of your progress. There are people in your life who are not enemies, but they are assignments you've already completed, lessons you've already learned, connections that serve their season. And if you don't have the courage to say no to what no longer fits, you'll never make room for what's trying to grow. Every version of you will not survive where you're going. Some relationships will not make the transition. Some habits will not survive the upgrade. And your no is what tells the universe, tells your spirit, tells your future that you're ready to stop recycling what you've outgrown. Saying no doesn't mean you're cold, it means you're clear. It means you understand that alignment comes with choices, and not all of them will be easy. There will be moments when your no breaks heart. There will be moments when it confuses the people who only knew the version of you that was always available, always agreeable, always willing to shrink. But growth requires pruning. And pruning looks like separation, like cutting back, like letting go. And sometimes your no will be the scissors that trim what's no longer bearing fruit. People will not always understand your no. They will question it, challenge it, try to convince you to turn it into a yes. But your growth is not a group decision. You do not need consensus to evolve. You do not need permission to protect your peace. You do not need validation to choose yourself. Your no is not a rejection of people. It is a declaration of purpose. It is your way of saying, I'm choosing what serves my growth, not just what satisfies your expectation of me. Every time you say no to what drains you, you say yes to what sustains you. Every time you say no to what distracts you, you say yes to what develops you. Every time you say no to what no longer aligns, you say yes to what is becoming. But that kind of clarity doesn't come without conflict. Some people will leave, some doors will close, some opportunities will pass, but what remains will be real, what stays will be solid. What comes next will be built on truth, not performance. Saying yes to growth often means disappointing people who benefited from your stagnation, the ones who liked the you that didn't have boundaries, the you that always said yes, the you that didn't ask questions, didn't challenge norms, didn't protect your peace. But you're not obligated to remain the version of yourself that others are comfortable with. Growth means evolving even when it's inconvenient, even when it's lonely, even when it costs relationships you thought would last forever. You cannot be loyal to your future and your past at the same time. One will always ask you to compromise the other. And when you say no to what was, you give birth to what could be. You give yourself permission to dream bigger, speak louder, move differently. You create space for new disciplines, new habits, new visions. You break